All right, Derbyites. Tony Award nominations came out this morning for the 70th annual edition of those awards. I'm Paul Sheehan, executive editor of Gold Derby. We've got two of our Broadway babies here. They're young, but they know far more than me. That's David Buchanan and Sam Eckmann. What even I knew that Hamilton was going to dominate. It got a record number of 16, and so the question, I guess, for you, Sam, is can it break the record held by the producers? It got 15 and won 12. And I guess Billy Elliot tied the 15 nominations aspect, but didn't win as many. And actually, just before you answer, suspense, one of Billy Elliot's nominations was sound design, a category that they had for only a couple of years and bounced out. Start with, would Hamilton have been nominated for sound design if that category existed?
Oh, of course. If it was a category, they pretty much checked it off. There's really not anywhere else that could improve upon in nominations. So it would have been nominated for sound design. That is a handicap in terms of breaking the producer's record. I'm not sure it can break the record. Maybe it will tie. The math is a little hard because they have 2 lead actors and 3 featured actors, and they can't all win featured actor. So I think it might come down to Philippa Sue, and I don't see her winning. I mean, if they really...
And she's in Best Actress.
Yes, Philippa Sue is in lead actress in a musical. But I have a hard time seeing Cynthia Erivo losing that category, and I think it would come down to her to break the producer's record. So I see them doing very well, and obviously they're going to probably get the most Tony wins of the evening, but I don't think they're going to break the record.
And David, what about you? Can you see Philippa Sue just getting swept along by the support for Hamilton?
I would think if there weren't a clear front runner in the category, then that could easily happen. I'm not surprised that she got the nomination, but I think winning with that company that she keeps, especially against Erivo, is going to be very hard. It's not out of the question. It wouldn't totally surprise me if it happened, but I won't predict it.
Okay, so if we go back to, all right, it's going to win Best Musical, and it'll win a bunch of the creative awards. Best Actor in a Musical. I mean, Sam, it's Lynn versus his co-star, but then we talked the other day before nominations came out about maybe Danny Burstein winning for Fiddler.
Yeah.
Did Fiddler underperforming today make you rethink that?
It definitely underperformed, but I mean, Danny Burstein is the reason to go see Fiddler, and he's super loved in the community, so I don't necessarily think it hurts its chances. I do think Fiddler's maybe out of the running for revival. It missed Bart Shear, which I said yesterday, for director. It didn't show up in any of the design categories. Jessica Hecht didn't break into featured actress. And even Spring Awakening, because there were 4 nominees for the revival, and Spring Awakening got in and got the director nomination instead of Bart.
Which must have made you very happy.
I was so happy. I would give Michael Arden Best Director in a heartbeat. I loved that production.
And that's a production... Spring Awakening, that's a production of a recent Best Musical winner that mixed hearing and deaf actors. David, you wrote a wonderful piece, The Good, Bad, and Ugly, and one of the things that you thought was good were those expanded categories. Just explain to everyone how that happened. Why were there 5 nominees instead of 4? Or
or 4 instead of 3. That was one of the greatest things about the nominations this morning. When we all talked a few days ago or yesterday, what we said was, well, there's like 2 or 3 shows competing for that last slot in all these categories, and somebody is going to lose out in a big way. And then category after category, when they were announcing these big ones, they found room for that outlier to come in, which was so great. So how that happened is, I think I was reading today, the nominating committee was 47 individuals this year, and if there is a tie within 3 votes, they would expand the category for an extra slot. So in Best Musical, Best Revival of a Musical, and Best Revival of a Play, where there were really too many great productions to fit in that narrow number of slots, I guess there were ties within 3 votes in each of those categories, and we got some really great extra recognition this year. So I'm thrilled about it.
That's interesting because the Emmy Awards have that as well, and it rarely happens there with their program awards that there's an extra nominee. I think, Sam, as I recall, you were a big Bright Star fan, or certainly for Carmen Cusack, so you must be thrilled.
Yeah.
That did quite well, I thought.
It overperformed a lot. It actually has one more nomination. It has 5 nominations, which is more than Waitress or School of Rock. They only got 4 each. So I was confident they'd get score, but didn't really know about anything else.
So right, now you were saying Danny Burstein, beloved in the community, but then I think, he is this year's Kelly O'Hara. He's had 5 losses. So they can like you, but they don't love you. Like, he's yet to win.
Yeah.
This role is like Anna and the King and I, in that it's substantive, and this could be the one.
It's a role that people like. I mean, I think Kelly O'Hara, when we thought she might win for Bridges of Madison County, that was, again, something that wasn't completely embraced. Like, it wasn't a big front runner. And then she went and did a big classic role, which was also directed by Bart Sher. So it could help that he's in a really well-liked musical. They always like bringing back Fiddler. Leslie Odom Jr. could still steal it. I think he has the best song of the year, so that will definitely help him.
I think what helps Danny, kind of to your point, Sam, is that it's really the only place where they can really acknowledge this production of Fiddler. Yeah. It's not going to win Revival. The choreography nomination is wonderful and very well deserved, but it has really stiff competition. Savon Glover for Shuffle Along is probably out front. Hamilton, of course, could steal. I don't think it's going to win choreography. So if they want to recognize Fiddler in any way, shape, or form, Danny is the vote. It's not necessarily to say I'm going to predict him out front in front of Leslie, but that's where support for Fiddler can kind of come to roost.
And it was interesting, David, you wrote about Spreading the Wealth. I think 26 of the 36 eligible shows got at least 1 nomination. I broke down the nominations by show. It was interesting to see what got where. I also decided to break down the nominating committee. I was curious, and as Sam pointed out the other day, Stephen Karam should have been on the nominating committee, and he had the good fortune of his play The Humans going to Broadway. So Sam, do you think that he may have lost a slot on the nominating committee? Do you think he'll win a Tony as a consolation prize?
I do. If I had to vote right now, I would vote for The Humans. They did tie Eclipse. They both have 6 nominations, and both of them are spread throughout broad support, kind of. They have acting, directing, and at least 1 design category in there for them. So I think it's still a race. I would put The Humans out front, though. I think it has a little more of an impact. I think it's more up the Tony voters' alley. I think Jane Howdyshell and Reed Birney are the front runners in the featured category.
Yeah.
So I think it could take play in the 2 acting awards, featured actor awards.
Now, we mentioned that David wrote a Good, Bad, and Ugly today, celebrating the nominations. You wrote 2 wonderful pieces highlighting 4 performances on the musical side and 4 on the drama side that you wanted Tony nominating committee to pay attention to. So how did you fare?
I got some of them. I got Megan Hilty, who I'm super psyched for, because she was hysterical in that play. I got, who else did I get in there? Carmen Cusack.
Zachary Levi.
And Zachary Levi got in. I couldn't believe Benjamin Walker was left out yet again. I guess he has to star in not a rock musical for them.
But they read there's only room for so many, and they read what Sam Eckmann had to say.
I was really holding out for Daniel Durant from Spring Awakening, but I guess that was stretching it too far. And I chose Robert to write about Robert Sella from Sylvia for featured actor in a play, but I almost had that spot for David Furr in Noises Off, and he got a nomination, which was a pretty big surprise. I didn't think The Men could get remembered from that production.
Right. So now with 3 nominations for the acting in Noises Off, I mean, does it have the potential to win Play Revival?
Potentially, but I think that's between A View from the Bridge and Long Day's Journey into Night. Those got the most nominations. A View from the Bridge, they checked it off in, scenic design and lighting design. I don't know why it needed a scenic design. I mean, no offense to the scenic designer. It was fine, but there were certainly more bigger and more extravagant sets. So that it just kind of showed they really loved it. I was surprised that Nicola Walker didn't make.
Me too. That was one of my two really uglies of the day. I was so disappointed for her.
Yesterday, when we said when we talked about Laurie Metcalf potentially showing up, and I said, "Were you surprised?" She is now. This is her third nomination, and all 3 times she has been the sole nominee from her production for November and A Better Place.
So we'll never leave her off again, right?
Yeah.
We'll never be fooled again.
And I thought Misery would at least get a set design nomination.
Me too. They deserve that.
Again, the only nominee. They like her no matter what she's in.
Now, so David, are you for Best Play? I mean, would you, if you had to predict right now, and unfortunately the Prediction Center is not open just yet, but it will be soon. We're still working on some tweaks. As anyone who's made predictions understands, this design has had some hiccups. But would you predict The Humans, David?
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of reminds me of what happened last year in Best Musical, where Fun Home was out front in terms of what we thought would win before nominations. American in Paris matched it in number, which Eclipse kind of did. I don't know if we were expecting Eclipse to match the number that The Humans had, but still my gut feeling is to go with, I thought, who had the momentum going into the nominations, and The Humans is still that show, I think.
And then maybe the 2 featured from The Humans, but what about up in Best Actress? Starting with that, do you think David? Do you think is going to win Best Actress in a Play?
I don't think the situation's any clearer than before the nominations. I think Lang could definitely do it. She didn't get the rave reviews that maybe some others in the category did, but she got the nomination, which Sam was right in saying was probably the hardest part for her, was to just get in with a group that historically has not really given her a lot of recognition. But I could see a case for Michelle Williams. I could see a case for Lupita Nyong'o. I could see a case for Sophie Okonedo, who surprised for featured actress in Raisin in the Sun a few years back. The Crucible didn't perform as well as some of us thought it would. I thought it would get more nominations. But they certainly love her as an actress, so that wouldn't even surprise me.
And Sam?
Yeah, I think now that she has the nomination, I think it's Lang's to lose. I mean, she completely dominates that whole show in a show that does really well historically with Tony nominations.
It's almost 4 hours long. I mean,
almost 4 hours long. She's on stage for most of it. There's really only one scene where she kind of takes a back seat when she's upstairs doing morphine. But it's an incredible emotive performance the whole time. I think what does help Michelle Williams a lot, and Jeff Daniels, an actor, is that Blackbird got that Best Revival nomination, which I wasn't sure, but they expanded to 5. So now you can't just say it's only an actor's piece. They really like the play. So I think now Michelle Williams and Jeff Daniels have a path to victory. I don't know that I'm predicting them right now, but they're definitely, I think they're now really in the running.
And Sam, explain that nuance you were telling me about the other day with Blackbird as the example of a play that's never been on Broadway, right?
Right.
So now, and by a living playwright, so what would happen if it was named for Best Revival?
Well, if it's named Best Revival, the playwright also gets on the ticket, and they also get to get up there with the producers and claim the Best Revival Tony.
Because they
had never had the chance to win the Best Play Tony in the first place.
So I suppose if Thérèse Raquin had been nominated, I guess they would have had to dig up the author. Is that Emile Zola?
Well, that was in.
No, this is a new book.
New because it was a new adaptation of the story.
Oh, okay. I see. I'm trying to make a joke, and I get these.
Sorry,
they're
too nerdy.
Yeah, no, it's great.
I have another nerd thing. Going back to Best Play, I was really excited about this category because I looked it up. All 4 Best Play authors are under 40, which is pretty incredible, and all making their Broadway debut.
Wow. It's
a pretty incredible crop of
this is why I don't do any talking. I just ask questions because these two know so much. So what about Best Actor in a Play, David?
I'm still on the Mark Strong bandwagon. I think View from the Bridge performed pretty much on par with how we thought it would. So I think he's still looking strong and out front, but I'm reading a lot today about Frank Langella, and he could really, I know that he and the play are the only two nominations for it, but he really is the play and the production. So as the kind of month and a half that we have to go before Tony's progresses, if Langella gains momentum, I could see him winning too, for sure.
And Sam, what about you? What do you think?
I mean, I have a hard, as it stands right now, we have like a month to go now before the voting, but I would have a hard time seeing Langella just because that play doesn't have as much buzz as Lust, and we've had a really buzzy season for straight plays. So I think Mark Strong is still out front. If they really like Long Day's Journey, though, Gabriel Byrne playing Tyrone Sr., that part it's gotten a nomination 3 times and won 2 out of those times. So it's a part they enjoy rewarding.
All right, Mr. Smarty Pants, so who were the winners?
Well, I'm just saying, Paul.
Now, who were the winners? Tell us.
I think Mark Strong is the winner. Oh, the winners of...
The winners of Long Day's Journey. Who were the men?
Oh, God. Now you're making me draw a blank on all of them. The original.
Brian Dennehy was one of them?
Brian Dennehy was one of the revivals, and then... the person who played it in the original. You're making me look dumb now.
But you know, Paul,
in the comment section, somebody show Sam up and tell him who. Of course,
but that's a good point, Paul, and that's kind of an argument that we heard. I hate to beat a dead horse, but because we talked about this last time, but for the revival of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, when we were talking about Tracy Letts, that role has won so many and been nominated for so many. I remember the New York Times did a piece on all the actors who had played that role and how many of them had won. And this is kind of reminding me of that kind of narrative. So he could be a spoiler here.
Just I want to say, because we do movies too, which makes Richard Burton losing for the film version of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf even more egregious.
Frederick March.
Frederick March. Ah.
Tyrone Sr.
Did his wife play Mary? Was it Florence Eldridge?
Oh, God.
Okay.
Before my time. I'm really young. So.
You are. And in fact, it's funny when you were talking about within 3 votes, because it put me in mind of the very first tie at the Oscars was between Frederick March and Wallace Beery, and they were within 3 votes.
Wow.
And then 35 years later, when Streisand and Katharine Hepburn tie, it had to be an exact number. And I think of Katharine Hepburn was in the film version of Long Day's Journey. See, it all gets tied together. So what on your wish list? So because I think, is there something on the musical side that you'd like a performance or a creative person to win instead of Hamilton? David, is there anyone that comes to mind?
Yeah, it's I guess it's going to sound cliche as we talk about it over the next 6 weeks, but it's really, for me, Danny. It's Fiddler and Tevye is the role of his lifetime, the performance of his lifetime. I don't know if he's going to get a chance. I mean, he's got decades of stage roles to come, I'm sure, but this is really could be his moment. It's his greatest opportunity. I think he's overdue, so I would love to see him do it for Tevye. What a great kind of crowning moment on his career so far that would be.
And Sam?
I'll pick something different than Danny because I would like him to win, but I would really be over the moon if Michael Arden took Best Director, which is obviously a near impossible hurdle going up against Tommy Kail for Hamilton, but I thought that the whole concept of Spring Awakening was so beautifully executed. It's one of my favorite things I've ever seen on Broadway, and I think it deserved to be like a much longer run and much more. It should still be here. I would go back. So
isn't it nice, Sam, that we can we're not having to be sad about one of those revivals getting left off today?
Oh, I know.
Because I would have been devastated.
And even James and Steve got Randy Skinner in for choreography, so actually all 5 revivals were recognized.
Yeah.
And just quickly, I guess the other, we had sort of predicted it, the snub of Dame Audra McDonald. I mean, she, none of us was super shocked she didn't get nominated, right?
I almost switched my predictions, too, to take her out, but then I was like, no, they're just not going to do it. But I knew Philippa Sue was going to get in, and I had her off my list. But
I put Carmen Cusack in because of you, Sam.
I had Carmen in. Okay. I had Philippa out, and I was like, that's not going to happen, but I just couldn't see who to bump.
I mean, It's smart predicting to not leave Audra out. This happened to be a year of a fluke, but we can't fault ourselves for leaving the all-time winningest Tony Award actress.
And
in
even
our
when
prediction.
she loses, this is only the second time she's ever opened a show on Broadway and not been nominated. The only other time is Henry IV.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
And you know, out of all the ties we had this year, you would think that would have been a category where they would have easily expanded for another slot.
I
right?
was surprised there were no acting ties.
Yeah.
Right.
Because we had 3 out of the big 4 categories expand, and none of the acting ones did, even though those can
That's a
expand up to
surprise.
6 and 7 categories. So that was a little surprising.
Yeah. Well, we will meet throughout the season, and we can talk about the different precursor prizes before and after they happen. All right. Well, thanks for educating all of us again, David and Sam.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.